I was giving some preliminary information concerning what we see in the sky, and I pointed out that the what is called the Jyotish Shastra, including works such as the Surya Siddhanta, provide a numerical description of what we actually see going on in the sky in terms of the motion of the sun, the moon, the planets, and so forth. So this Jyotisha Shastra describes the universe as we see it with our ordinary sense perceptions. So now today, what I will do is describe how the universe is presented in the 5th canto of the Śrīmad Bhagavatam. Now here, we're going to be going beyond the limits of our normal senses. So just to give an indication of that, I should point out that this is quite explicitly indicated in the Śrīmad Bhagavatam itself. So the beginning of the description of the universe in Śrīmad Bhagavatam starts with the following statement by Shukadeva Goswami. Actually, Maharaj Parikshit has just asked Sukadeva Goswami to describe the universe. So, Shukadeva Goswami said, "My dear king, there is no limit to the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's material energy. This material world is a transformation of the material qualities, Sattva-guna, Raja-guna, and Tamo-guna. Yet no one could possibly explain it perfectly, even in a lifetime as long as that of Brahma. No one in the material world is perfect, and an imperfect person could not describe this material universe accurately, even after continued speculation. O king, I shall nevertheless try to explain to you the principal regions, such as Bhugolaka, with their names, forms, measurements, and various symptoms." So, Shukadeva Goswami begins by making the point that it's not possible to give a complete description of the material universe. Actually, the objective of modern scientific research in the area of cosmology is, at least in one sense, to give a complete description. Of course, the scientists do not imagine that they're going to be able to describe exactly what each atom in the universe is doing. That would obviously be impossible. But their idea is to formulate a complete model in which all of the basic elements that appear in the universe have a representation. And their idea is that whatever is in the universe will be in their model, represented in mathematical form, so that they have a full understanding of all the different categories of phenomena that are going on. This is the goal in modern cosmology. So, one can take it, though, from this statement by Shukadeva Goswami, or at least one way to look at it, is that it would be very difficult for us to do that. So we can expect that there might actually be aspects of the material universe which we could not hope to properly describe or define using a model that we can visualize within our minds. So we should always be open to that possibility. So, with that in mind, what I will do is briefly summarize the description of the universe given by Sukadeva Goswami. This description begins, naturally, with a discussion of what is called Bhumandala. Now, I mentioned yesterday that when the Śrīmad Bhagavatam refers to the earth, it is referring to this Bhumandala. And Bhumandala can be essentially imagined as a disk about 4 billion miles in diameter. So, the description given by Shukadeva Goswami begins with a discussion of this Bhumandala. Now, the first thing to notice about Bhumandala is that the scale of Bhumandala essentially corresponds to the scale of the solar system. That is, in terms of order of magnitude, or rough ballpark figures, the size of Bhumandala is about the size of the solar system. a radius of 2 billion miles takes you out to about twice the orbit of Saturn, just to give an idea of the size of this. So, Bhumandala, however, is described as a variegated world with various geographical features. There are mountains, oceans, different kinds of plant and animal life, human beings, and so on, various kinds of inhabitants. All of these features are there. However, when you read the description of Bhumandala, the first thing that becomes apparent is that the scale of size of all the different geographical features is very large. The difference, just as Bhumandala itself is very large, being about 4 billion miles across, so also the mountains and oceans and so on the surface of Bhumandala have a corresponding size. So I've referred to this as celestial geography, because it is not like the geography that we're acquainted with here on the Earth. So, to give an idea of what is involved with Bhumandala, I'll start by describing what is known as Jambudvīpa. Bhumandala is essentially structured in the form of a series of expanding rings, which are concentric with one another. And in the center of this series of rings, which you can roughly visualize as being like a bullseye used in archery practice. So in the center of this series of rings, there's a circular region called called Jambudvīpa. So Jambudvīpa is also a disc or a circle, and it's described that Jambudvīpa is 100,000 yojanas in diameter. So maybe I should stop briefly here to say something about a yojana, because that term is always used in the Bhagavatam. You can find various definitions of the yojana, which will clarify the nature of this unit of distance. Śrīla Prabhupāda uses 8 miles to the yojana. Well, there are different definitions. One definition of the yojana is that a yojana is 4 kroshas, and a krosha means a shout. And what this literally means is a krosha is the distance that a person with good hearing can hear the shout of a person with good lung power. So that is 1 krosha. I presume it means under appropriate weather conditions. That is, the person doesn't have to shout against a headwind or something like that. So that's the definition of a krosha. So there are 4 kroshas in a yojana. So this is a sort of rough and ready measure. It's also described that there are 800 nri in a yojana, and a nri is the height of a man. So that's another definition. The Bhagavatam commentator Vamsidhar pointed out that the units of distance which are commonly used are measured on the basis of the body of the yajamana. Yajamana means a person authorizing a sacrifice. So the idea was that on the basis of the size of that person's body, the various units that might be appropriate in the sacrifice were determined. So it was recognized that these units were variable. So, depending on the size of the person, the yojana could be large or small. However, you can see that there's only a limited range of variation because people only have a limited range of sizes. So, the yojana was a variable measure. However, in astronomy, it's not really adequate to have a measure that can vary so freely. So, different astronomers would fix the yojana in a specific way, but there are different standards of size. It turns out, though, that you can calibrate the yojana in terms of miles by looking at statements concerning the diameter of the Earth. For example, in the writings of Aryabhata, the diameter of the Earth is given as 1,050 yojanas. And if you compare that with the present figure for the diameter of the Earth, you can find that they're about 7.55 yojanas per mile, miles per yojana. And in the Surya Siddhanta, in Siddhanta Shiromani, the figure for the diameter of the Earth is more like 1,600 yojanas. So there the yojana comes out to about 5 miles. So there are different standards which are used. So the Jambudvip is 100,000 yojanas across, and it's circular in form. So that is a view of Jambudvip looking down from above. Jambudvip is intersected by different mountain ranges. So these lines that I've drawn represent ranges of mountains. Yeah, that could help. So you'll notice that there are 3 parallel lines down below, and then another set of 3 lines up above. So these are 6 mountain ranges. Then the 2 vertical lines that I've drawn there are additional mountain ranges. So these mountain ranges divide Jambudvip into a series of regions called varshas. Actually, the word varsha means valley, between 2 mountains. So there are, as you can see, 9 varshas in Jambudvip. Now, in the very center, I've drawn a smaller circle, and that represents the location of Mount Meru. So, these mountains are quite large. Just to give an idea, the 6 horizontal mountain ranges shown here are each 10,000 yojanas high. So that would come out to 80,000 miles. We'll just use the 8-mile yojana. So this, of course, immediately indicates something. If the Earth of our experience, that is this Earth we can travel around on, is 25,000 miles around the equator, then you can't place on this Earth a mountain 80,000 miles high, because it's bigger than the Earth. In fact, the diameter of the Earth is about 8,000 miles, so a mountain 80,000 miles high is about 10 times as big as the Earth. So these mountains have a height about 10 times the diameter of the Earth. Actually, even the smallest mountains described in Jambudvip have a height about twice the diameter of the Earth. So this gives an idea of the scale of size of Jambudvip. Now, even though these different geographical features of Jambudvip are on a much larger scale than the geography that we know of, there is a correspondence between Jambudvip and the regions that we experience on this Earth planet. And that will be a subject that maybe I'll get into in more detail tomorrow. But for now, I'll mainly give a description just of Jambudvip as it's presented in the Bhagavatam. So, these different varshas all have different names. The southernmost varsha is called Bharata Varsha, which gives an indication of the connection between Jambudvip and this world of our experience, because here, if I had a pointer, actually, that would be good. But that semicircle down there at the bottom is Bharat Varsha. So, then there are various names for the different varshas. Ketumala Varsha, Bhadrashva Varsha, Ilavriti Varsha, and so on. They all have different names. That's one. Right, those are the 9 varshas. So, and then in the very north it's Uttarakuru Varsha, and so on. So, this is Jambudvip, as seen from above. Okay. Good. A pointer. So, the Bhagavatam gives a description of the inhabitants of Jambudvip. This description is quite significant. In all of the 8 varshas other than Bharata Varsha, the conditions are celestial. That is, these are heavenly regions. In fact, it's described in the Bhagavatam that the human beings in Bharat Varsha can acquire karma through their actions, whereas the human beings in the other varshas are not acquiring karma, but they're merely exhausting the results of pious activities. It's described that if you perform various pious activities within this life, it is possible to be elevated to what is called Svarga Loka. Now, Svarga Loka is completely beyond this Bhumandala region, and I'll be saying something about what Svarga Loka is later on also. Svarga Loka is the realm of the demigods proper, beings such as Indra and so forth. So, when one is elevated to this Svarga Loka, one can have an exceedingly long lifespan of many millions of years. But, and typically a person in that Svarga Loka will tend to engage in material activities and enjoy the results of the good karma that they have accumulated. So what happens is, after a certain period of time, which will be very long by our standards, a person in the Svarga Loka will have exhausted the karmic credits which entitle them to live within that realm, and so then they're forced to transmigrate down to the earthly realm of existence. However, the earth in question is this Mandala. And in particular, souls that fall down from the Svarga Loka can take birth in the 8 varshas of Jambudvip other than Bharat Varsha. And there they again have bodies similar to those of demigods. However, their lifespan is shorter. It amounts to thousands of years instead of millions of years. So they're in the process of descending in terms of karmic merit. So, however, they are not building up more karma. They're just exhausting the results of their previous pious activities. So there are many descriptions in the Bhagavatam of what life is like in these other varshas of Jambudvip. It is described that, first of all, even the ordinary inhabitants live for thousands of years, and they enjoy very utopian circumstances. They have very opulent lives and so forth. They don't suffer from disease and old age and so on. Also, the various demigods frequently visit these different parts of Bharat Varsha. So, in the stories in the Mahabharata and the Bhagavatam, you'll always find references to Lord Shiva and Indra and so on engaging in activities in these different varshas. So these are definitely celestial regions. So this is significant because in terms of dimensions, you can, just by a simple calculation, conclude that most of Bharat Varsha is many thousands of miles away from the earth that we know. I mean, most of Jambudvip, simply because of the size. If it is 800,000 miles across, then most of it is, let's say, more than 10,000 miles away from us. So most of it is located then in what we would regard as outer space. So that's the first conclusion that one can come to simply by considering the dimensions. So this is the Bharatavarsha. I'll give you an idea of the vertical relief in Bharatavarsha also. Here what I did was, here we're looking at Jambudvip from an angle now. So the circular disk of Jambudvip now becomes an ellipse which is foreshortened. That's what the drawing is supposed to represent. And you see this inverted cone extending up to a height which is nearly equal to the diameter of Jambudvip itself. Now this is what is known as Mount Meru, which is the most prominent feature of Jambudvip. So Mount Meru is described as being 84,000 yojanas high. So the diameter of Jambudvip is 100,000 yojanas. So you can see it's nearly as high as Jambudvip is wide. So that description is given. It is also said that at the top, Mount Meru is 32,000 yojanas across, and at the base, it's 16,000 yojanas across. So it gets wider as you go to the top. That's the description. Yeah, the top is twice as wide as the base. Yeah, it's flat on the top, and it is described that on the top there is a city of Lord Brahma. This is not Satyaloka, that's a different place, but Brahma has a residence on top of this Mount Meru. And also the 8 principal demigods called Dikpalas have residences up on the top of the mountain. So, yeah, this is Mount Meru going up. So, somewhat crude drawing. Actually, you can take a look later, but I have some computer-generated drawings of Jambudvip here. Actually, I don't know if anyone can see this very clearly, but this you can look at later. Gives a clear idea. Also, this plain of Jambudvip here is exceedingly mountainous. As I was saying, the mountains there are about 80,000 miles high. But that makes them about a tenth as high as the total height of Mount Meru, which is 84,000 yojanas. So that gives you an idea of the scale of Jambudvip. So Jambudvip is the central hub of this Bhumandala. And compared with Bhumandala as a whole, this Jambudvip is actually very small. So I'll make another drawing to indicate what the rest of Bhumandala looks like. What we'll do that would be I'll explain this obscure-looking diagram. What I've done there, the very small inner circle there represents Jambudweep. So surrounding Jambudweep, there is a ring-shaped ocean. And the width of that ocean is equal to the diameter of Jambudweep itself. And then surrounding that ocean, there's a ring-shaped island called Plakshadweep. And its width is also equal to the width of the ocean, which is equal to the width of Jambudweep. Surrounding that, there is another ring-shaped ocean. But its width is twice the width of Plakshadweep. And then, going still further, there's a ring-shaped island surrounding that, which is of equal width. And then another ring-shaped ocean, which is twice the width of that island. And another ring-shaped island, which is equal to the width of that ocean, and so on. So in total, counting Jambudweep as the center, there are 7 islands and 7 oceans. And these form a series of concentric expanding rings on the surface of this Bhumandala. So that's what the geographical layout of Bhumandala is like. Now the 7th of these islands going out is called Pushkaradweep. And it is described that in the center of Pushkaradweep going out, there is a ring-shaped mountain that goes all the way around in a circle. And that's called Manasotara Mountain. So, also various other mountains, rivers, and other geographical features of these islands are described. There's quite a detailed description. So, this is a basic idea of what Jambudweep looks like as described in the Bhagavatam. So, let's see here. Looking for something. Okay. Excuse me?